So really not sure what I was gonna say in this video, just because it's kind of like a weekly thing, you know. Who would have guessed? But for real though, kind of an uneventful-ish week. I don't remember if I had two this week or one this week, but anyways, for Ichinensei or first grade, they have a like an entrance welcoming ceremony type thing for them, and all the little adorable first graders pile in, and they it depends on the school. Sometimes they'll say their names, which is usually only at the smaller schools, and then other times they'll just read off their number like 21, 42, or whatever their number is. Just because there's at least at my schools, there's no real in between. There's either like the really big schools and the really small schools. So imagine trying to read off, 60 plus names, or actually no, because probably 100 names, and they normally only have like a period and a half. So call it like a little over an hour to do all the events and whatnot that they do. So everyone piles in the gym. They usually the first thing that they do is they say, "Oh, welcome first graders," but obviously it's in Japanese and not in English. And then they have the first grader, or at my one school, they had the first graders line up on this little like mini stage type thing in front of the actual stage in the gym, and they did like a little interview or so I was like, "Oh, what's your name? Do you like blah blah blah?" Uh, and then depending on who was asking the questions, there's usually one or two other questions. It usually revolved around simple things like food or color or whatever. Some of the kids were like super excited to answer, then other kids just were, and it was super, it was super awkward for the person asking the question because they're like, "Good answer? No. Good answer? Nope. Okay. Next person." So at the bigger school, they didn't do that at all. They just kind of said, number one, number two, blah 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 blah, number 60, and I don't know why, but sometimes there were two kids, usually a boy and a girl, and then other times there was just a boy or just a girl, for because like two people would walk up for number one, then two people would walk up for number two, and then one person would walk up for number three, and so on and so forth until like I think it was number 80 actually I think, because for one of the events they like pre walk in they had them grouped by 20s, so it was like uh, the first 20 had on like a red crown, the next 20 had on a blue crown, the next 20 had on a yellow crown, and then the last 20 had on a pink crown. And the first graders get escorted by the sixth graders because they're basically, what they say is Onisan and Onesan, which is basically closest translation to English is like brother and sister, so or like mentor basically, for an easier explanation, I guess. So the sixth graders are basically kind of like they're like big brother and big sister, and depending on the school, they'll group them into like little like I call them school family, and so it was normally like six people, so uh, 6 or 7 or 8 people give or take. It was usually like one or two sixth graders, and the rest were the brand new first graders. And that actually, the school that I mentioned that to actually has a Japanese teacher of English, which is it's the only elementary school that I know of in this area that actually has a Japanese teacher of English for a elementary school. Usually, the only ones that have that are the junior high schools and the high schools. So also that school is like really advanced. Like the fourth graders know how to tell time, and most of my Actually, no. Most of my sixth graders probably couldn't tell the time. But I digress. So at the most recent one, they were like, "Oh, Ryan Sensei, come on, come on, first grader welcome ceremony." I was like, "All right, cool." So it was pretty cool to be asked to come and watch that because it's something that I didn't have, and I don't think really almost anyone has in America. In Japan, the entrance ceremonies are a really big deal. Like my coordinator that helped me out, she said that, or no, she asked me when we were coming back from one of my schools because they basically only talked to me in the entrance because they were so busy preparing for the entrance ceremony. This was back in what the hell was it? Late March, early April, I think it was before I started teaching. And so they were too busy to talk just because they were so swamped with prepping for the entrance ceremony. And she asked me, "Oh, did you have this in America with the entrance ceremonies?" I was like, "To my knowledge, no. And if we did, it wasn't anything memorable because I obviously don't remember it. And I remember most things, but she said, "Oh yeah, I can remember every detail about mine." So that's how big of a deal it was that this 30 or 40 year old lady can remember her entrance ceremony from elementary school and junior high school and high school. So over here, it's quite a big deal. I haven't experienced like an actual like full school welcome ceremony. I've got to imagine that it's pretty close to the first graders though, just probably with a little less games. It's probably more formal just because they're obviously older than however old the first graders here are. I couldn't tell you, but they're all very young and very very adorable because they're so or 90% of them are like super happy and jumping around and flailing around and everything, and they're and their heads are normally too big too big for their bodies, so they're all top heavy and wobbling everywhere. It's pretty it's really cute. Uh, but because Japan's such a homogenous country and society, most of them have never seen anyone not Japanese before. So like I'd wave and smile at them, and some of them would like get this really big grin on their face, and like other ones would be like just kind of like shyly like, who the hell is this strange foreign person that's waving at me and smiling at me? But it's pretty interesting to see how different the schools are as far as capability and even as far as their like day to day operations. Um, I had something else to talk about after I talked about the entrance ceremony, but I legitimately cannot remember what the hell it was to save my life. Um, yeah. Oh, uh, so there's been a lot of people who have messaged me saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be in Japan, like last minute or whatever, or just on vacation, and are you gonna be free on like day X to day Z or whatever?" Game reference. Uh, but I was like, "No, not really. Like unless it's a weekend, and like, unless you're like basically coming to Yamaguchi or coming near Yamaguchi, it'll probably be a no. At least until I have like a long break, because one, unless it's like an official like unpaid day, then I can be called in. Um, because it's public school teaching too. There's like up until the kids actually get like out of school, uh, I can pretty much be called in whenever. It won't always happen, but it'll happen uh, enough to where they basically say, "Oh yeah, so don't go anywhere in case we need to call you to come in to do something, whether it's just helping out with like summer camp or whatever, or after school stuff, or tests or whatever." I don't know if the elementary school kids have tests, at least in English, because they take the excuse me, because they more or less take the approach, or on the surface, it's basically the approach of, all right, make English fun, and play games and whatnot and do skits. But as far as far as what the teachers actually want, it varies by school to school and by class to class. Because in Japan, the educational system is basically based off of the Confucianism form of education, where it's basically, all right, I am the teacher, you are the student, you write down everything that I say, how I say it, exactly how I say it, word for word. So I will speak to you, and you will write down what I say and what I write down on the board, and that is basically the only option for them. So it is pretty nice to be able to kind of give them a break from that rigorous mold that the Japanese educational system tends to put it in, or tends to put the students in. But there's still some of the homeroom teachers that tend to be uh, on that same train for English, which really doesn't work for learning a foreign language. I mean, obviously drilling is important, because basically the ones that don't like the have fun approach basically have the approach of drilling is learning and only drilling is only learning, which is kind of frustrating, because you can tell some of the kids are like, "Oh my God, just kill me now. If I have to say this damn vocabulary word one more time, I'm going to lose my shit." So I try to make it as fun as possible. Obviously, within reason. Like, I can't have the kids like jumping and screaming like around the room. Uh, first and second graders are obviously a exception, because that it would be next to impossible to do anything but have them jump and scream around, or jump around and scream for 45 minutes. Uh, oh man, it's hot today. It's been hot all week, actually. It was pretty sweltering yesterday here, or Friday. I think it's Saturday morning in America right now. It's about to be Saturday evening ish. It's 5 p.m. right now. But on Friday, I played dodgeball with the kids in like this sweltering ass, like 85-degree heat and some crazy ass humidity. So that was real thrilling. And the Board of Education came, and they're, oh yeah, by the way, so the Board of Education is going to come later this afternoon, and they're probably going to watch a couple minutes of your lessons. So do drilling. I was all right, cool, whatever. Which it was kind of weird for that school to do that to me, because so far that school's always told me when something was going on like that. So I assumed it was just one of those like, surprise, Board of Education's here type deals. Because back in America, they tended to do that stuff too, where I was like, all right, so we're not going to give you any time to prepare and prep, so you can kind of like watch what you do normally, rather, and not just, all right, we're gonna watch we're gonna watch what you think we want to see. Uh, but anyways, I would excuse me, man. Heat's killing me today. But I've been thinking about this recently, and I don't know what I'm gonna do once my contract runs out. I think I think what I would like to do is go back to America and get my master's degree. But before I go back to America, take like a month or so maybe, and just kind of tour around Japan. And then in the meantime, until that happens, basically just save as much of my money as I can. And because I mean, right now all I really spend my money on is food, and more food and more food, and a metric shit ton of snacks, because I live off snacks and ramen over here. Oh, my God. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, that's like the third time so far. Better cut this one short then, so I don't yawn every 30 seconds. But yeah, I don't really like planning out these videos. Just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of seems weird and disingenuine, what, to plan out a video. I don't know. maybe it's just me. It's kind of weird because I normally like to plan out everything. Because then if shit hits the fan, then I have, like backup plan B and C if plan A commits suicide on me. But I don't know, for something like this, it just seems more enjoyable to watch when it's just like me talking to the camera. Um, but yeah. Oh, actually, I probably shouldn't say that because I'm not allowed to. Yep. Erase that thought. Yeah. So I just got back from the grocery store, so I'm stocked up on drinks. They didn't have my normal banana milk, which I'm not addicted to, but I thoroughly enjoy anything banana, pretty much. They were out of my banana slim milk today. I was kind of crushed, so I got some. I think it's chocolate. I don't know if it actually is chocolate, but it looks like chocolate because the container is brown. And I used Shiesty Google Translate, and it translated it to malt. So probably pretty close, or could be pretty vile if it's not translated correctly. But Google Translate is absolutely awful. It's 60% of the time it's fairly decent. The other 40% of the time it's pretty god awful. I was at a ramen shop the one day and I wasn't really sure which dish I got last time, and I just went around the menu translating stuff, and it translated this one pork ramen dish to horse beams. So I literally could not tell you where it got that, but I was like, oh shit, like am I like actually eating horse meat or something like that? So I snapped a picture of it and sent it to my coordinator, and she was like, yeah, no, that's not horse, that's pork. Where the hell did you get horse from? I was like, well, Google told me it's horse, so tomato tomato, I guess. Oh, speaking of tomato tomato, I'm writing a story right now. If you're on my Facebook with me, you've seen me post the first. I don't know what to call it. Not really a chapter. I guess I'll call it like the first segment. We'll call it. Whenever I feel like it, I will type up what I have right now, which is probably double what I posted before. I don't really know how long it was before. But basically, um, stifled that yawn that time. But basically, the story is it started off as realism, and I was kind of playing with the idea of turning into fantasy, but I wasn't sure when to turn it into fantasy. Because I didn't want to just like start off in medias res, which is in the middle of for any of you non-English majors. Um, so yeah, basically, in medias res stories take place in the middle of the action, and I didn't really want to start off in the middle of fantasy action, just because you'd be you'd be left with too many questions right off the bat, and I'm not a huge fan of starting off with stories like that, or even with anime. There's been a couple anime that I've watched where it's like, oh, we're gonna show you the we're gonna show you the final boss battle of this season. Oh wait, we're gonna start you off from the beginning, so now you know basically what happens, but we're gonna show you how we got there. Not totally cool with stories like that or movies or anime like that, but some of them do work. I'm not going to uh, castrate all of them, but it's very difficult to make a story like that work. Plus, with the story that I want to write, it doesn't really fit. It's going to be. See, and I was also playing with what kind of fantasy world to make it too, because there's so many different options. You can go with like. I'm gonna use a bunch of anime references here, by the way. So if you don't know the anime references, go watch them actually, because they're very good. I wasn't sure to whether to make it kind of like where there's the new world and the old world, and they're separated, or like real, real world, normal human being world, and then world XYZ, however many other worlds I want, and then have them completely separated, and then the main character or characters figure out how to get from real world to fantasy world. Kind of stories like that, or anime like that, would be High School DxD would probably be the best example. Uh, that is involves demons and angels and gods and whatnot, and uh, magic, obviously, because you can't really have demons and whatnot and all that stuff without magic. Um, yeah, there's a lot of fan service in it. So if you're not a huge fan of fan service, uh, then probably not going to be the anime for you. But I will say it's one of the few anime that uh, shows tits, and that actually has a very solid storyline. But I've also read quite a bit of the light novel, so I guess I kind of have a advantage to that standpoint. But anyways, I just looked up my videos nearing 21 minutes. I'll kind of skip with my commentary on the anime. Uh, the next one would be uh, New World and Old World combined. Oh no, sorry. That's the third one. Second one would be main character gets sucked out of normal non magic world and gets sucked into um, magic world. So examples of that Sword Art Online is probably going to be the most known one as far as the anime goes. Sword Art Online, Log Horizon, kind of take your pick, but out of those two, it's fairly fairly clear. I don't really know of any sort of American movie or whatever that would translate to that, but Sword Art Online and Log Horizon are probably the two most common that I can think of. Anyways, on to number three. Number three that I was wrestling with would be to kind of have it in the real world, but have the real world have the fantasy elements kind of already integrated into it. So, best example would probably be Tokyo Ghoul or sorry, not Log Horizon, or Attack on Titan, to where it's kind of like it's non-real world stuff that's in the real world. So, like with Tokyo Ghoul, it's obviously uh, people who eat each other to survive, and they have crazy ass powers and whatnot, and it's kind of like having the magic world and the real world combined. But what I decided to go with was the first one, to where the character can leave the real world and go into the fantasy world or worlds. I still really haven't decided how many I'm going to have. It's definitely going to be at least one, I think. Um, I'm not terribly far into it right now. I think I'm up to 10 pages, maybe. I don't know. I'm writing into my notebook during my free periods at school, because I mean, honestly, as far as like lesson planning goes, there's legitimately like almost no lesson planning that I've got to do. Just because the schools want a really specific thing, and if I do lesson plan, it's only for pretty much the first time, and then like the other times, I can basically use that same lesson at the other schools, just because they all pretty much want the same thing, except for my one school, which is the really advanced one, and the JTE plans out everything how the way she wants it. So I really don't have to do anything for that school, anyways. Plus, I mean, she said I can, but with that, I mean, she's obviously doing a fantastic job. If the fourth graders know how to tell time, and like I said, my sixth graders don't know how to. I mean, they might know how to tell time, but not like the fourth graders can at this other school. So I kind of follow the philosophy of why fix something if it's not broken mentality with that. Plus, if I'm not going to be here next year, I don't want to uh, create some new thing and then not be here. You know, but yeah, I'll end it here because it's nearing 25 minutes. So have a lovely Saturday, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. If I think of something else to say later, I'll post a separate video. Um, it's always funny that I always start off with, I have no idea how I'm gonna do this video, or what I'm gonna talk about, and then it's like, oh shit, it's up to 25 minutes. So I don't know. like I said, I just thought it was quite funny every time. But thanks for watching, and as always, please subscribe if you would like to follow my journey throughout Japan and my 25-minute videos of usually complete nonsense. But I guess it's probably enjoyable sometimes. I don't know. I don't know. I guess if it's not enjoyable, we're obviously not going to watch it or make it this far. So thanks to those who watch, and thanks to Mr. Nutter for commenting on every video so far. It's pretty cool to see people comment on my videos that I think are just kind of like random nonsense. So yep, thanks for watching. Have a nice Saturday by the time this is up. Actually, it's already Saturday there. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So anyways, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Matane.